In 1776, the American colonies were a fragile ribbon of settlements hugging the Atlantic coast. To the north, west, and south, this strip of land was boxed in by the massive, heavily armed territories of the British, French, and Spanish empires. Maintaining the colonies as a sovereign state depended on raw physical defense. The map's survival relied on frontline soldiers capable of maneuvering through this encirclement and taking ground under extreme pressure. Lieutenant James Monroe was in the vanguard of that desperate effort. On Christmas night, his advance unit crossed the Delaware River hours ahead of the main army, navigating jagged ice in the dead of winter to spearhead the offensive. At the Battle of Trenton, Monroe charged a Hessian artillery battery under heavy fire. He and a small group of infantrymen sprinted into the blinding smoke to seize the guns before the mercenaries could reload. A musket ball struck Monroe in the shoulder during the assault, severing an artery. He nearly bled to death on the battlefield, saved by a doctor who clamped the wound. He carried the shrapnel inside his body for the rest of his life. When the Revolutionary War ended, the nation was functionally bankrupt, and its borders remained porous. Hostile foreign powers still loomed on all sides, and the original founding generation was beginning to age out of power. The experience at Trenton began a 40-year career defined by the aggressive fortification of American borders. Monroe would spend the next 4 decades working to ensure the vulnerabilities he faced as a lieutenant were engineered out of the American map. In 1794, Monroe transitioned to the diplomatic theater of revolutionary France. Alongside his wife, Elizabeth, he managed a high-stakes assignment that balanced official statecraft with direct intervention in the era's chaotic violence. Elizabeth Monroe took an active role in this environment. She navigated the peak of the French Revolution to save the wife of the Marquis de Lafayette from the guillotine, securing her release when the Lafayette family had become political targets. Monroe eventually entered direct negotiations with Napoleon's government over the Louisiana Territory. Control of this land meant control of the trade along the Mississippi River, making it the highest strategic priority in North America. The resulting diplomatic strike doubled the physical size of the United States. For $15 million, the massive red territory seen here was added to the American interior without the cost of a single casualty. By securing the interior of the continent, Monroe proved that diplomacy could neutralize a superpower's presence more effectively than a direct war. This acquisition established territorial expansion as a primary tool for long-term national security. During the War of 1812, the capital's vulnerability was exposed when British forces overran Washington, D.C., setting fire to the Capitol and the White House. Standard military leadership collapsed during the crisis. With the city in ruins, President Madison turned to Monroe as the ultimate problem solver to prevent the total failure of the federal government. Monroe took the unprecedented step of serving as Secretary of State and Secretary of War simultaneously. He utilized this dual authority to stabilize the retreating military and hold the fragmented government together while the capital was still under direct fire. By centralizing executive power during the war's lowest point, Monroe proved the American Republic could survive even the physical destruction of its political center. When Monroe became president in 1817, he famously insisted on wearing out-of-style knee breeches and a black felt tricorn hat. He was the last revolutionary veteran in the White House, and he used this last cocked hat persona to project a sense of old-school authority. History remembers his tenure as the era of good feelings, but Monroe maintained this stability through fierce personal control. He expected absolute respect for the presidency and had no patience for insubordination. When his Treasury Secretary, William Crawford, stormed into the office and raised a cane to strike him, the 67-year-old president grabbed heavy iron fireplace tongs from the hearth to physically defend himself and drive Crawford out. This aggressive posture extended to his foreign policy. He authorized American troops to push into Spanish Florida to neutralize border threats, pressuring the Spanish Empire to either govern the region or give it up. Spain eventually ceded the territory in 1819. The acquisition locked down the American coastline and eliminated a dangerous southeastern vulnerability. Monroe's willingness to use direct force neutralized internal division and external threats alike, clearing the way for a unified domestic policy. By the 1820s, European monarchies began considering military expeditions to recolonize the Americas. To Monroe, this was a direct threat to the safety of the entire Western Hemisphere. He countered this threat with his most significant political declaration, the Monroe Doctrine. Monroe unilaterally drew an invisible boundary down the Atlantic Ocean, placing both North and South America under a shield of American protection. This audacious declaration banned future European colonization. It shifted the balance of global power by warning that any Old World intervention in the Americas would be treated as a direct attack on the United States. This absolute commitment to national security unified the country. In the 1820 election, Monroe ran virtually unopposed for his second term, the only president besides Washington to do so. In less than 50 years, the United States had transitioned from a fragile, encircled strip of colonies into a transcontinental powerhouse shielded from the Old World. Washington and Jefferson provided the nation's independence and its ideals, but it was the battle-scarred veteran from Trenton who drew the strategic perimeter that allowed the American empire to dominate the future.